if you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of, if you're going to a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky shit that doesn't make any sense, and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it out in the woods. You do a bunch of shit like that.
It's the moment no one in America will forget. Joe Rogan, mid-podcast, head in his hands, mouth twisted in raw disbelief as his producer whispers that Charlie Kirk is gone. Shot, they say, while standing on stage at Utah Valley University. Across from Rogan, Charlie Sheen fumbles for words, stuck somewhere between Hollywood filler and genuine shock. But it's Rogan's silence that lands like a body blow, a vacuum of noise so heavy you can almost hear the blood rushing in his ear. 1 second, he's riffing about elk hunting and cancel culture. The next, he's caught in a cold sweat, staring across the table as the news rolls in and the floor drops out from under him. There's something about seeing one of the world's most unshakable men just sit there, speechless, that tells us right away, this isn't some headline. This is seismic.
That's yelling, I shot him, now shoot me. I shot him, now shoot me. And then that guy gets arrested for child charges. Like, he's like, what is going on here? So and then weird. You find this rifle, and then you say, oh, he assembled it and he reassembled it. Like, okay. I wish I was a cop. I'd sit in a room like, this story is horseshit.
We watch Rogan turn the news over in his hands, almost refusing to believe it. Kirk, the man he met once at a gun range, a nice guy, smart, not the enemy, whatever you think of his politics, just erased in the time it takes a bullet to cross 2 football fields. Sheen, wild-eyed, mutters about ideology and hatred, but Rogan isn't listening. He wants to know, did they catch the shooter? Is there a suspect? How the hell did this happen? In daylight, in front of thousands, on a campus crawling with security. The air hangs thick with a truth that every big name in the manosphere is thinking but won't say out loud. If they can take out Kirk, they can take out anyone. The world tilts, the old rules vanish, and suddenly it's all fair game. And let's set the scene, because if you blinked that day, you missed the transformation of a campus into a war zone. Kirk, just 31, steps onto the outdoor stage, kicking off his American comeback tour. In an instant, a single shot cracks the late summer air, and Kirk drops. Blood everywhere, chaos erupting. Students bolt for cover, shrieking, trampling fences, and losing shoes in the dirt, while campus police struggle to figure out where the shot even came from. In the confusion, nobody sees the shooter. All anyone knows is the sky is full of drones. Choppers thumping overhead. Every alphabet agency in the country on the radio. By nightfall, the FBI puts out a photo. A tall, dark figure, sunglasses, all black, disappearing into the crowds. Just another shadow at the edge of the frame.
The fallout from Charlie Kirk's has spread to the workplace. People are getting fired for comments that seem to celebrate or glorify the assassination of the MAGA activist and father of 2 young children.
2 days later, law enforcement swarms a rundown apartment 200 miles away and drags Tyler Robinson, 22, out in handcuffs. Prosecutors tell the cameras, open and shut case. They claim Robinson, an electrical apprentice with no criminal record and no military background, assembled a rifle, stashed it in a backpack, slipped past security, scaled a rooftop, took the shot, and then melted into the sea of panicked students. It's all tied up with a bow until, that is, the podcasters and true crime junkies start digging in and nothing quite adds up. This is the story we're fed, but it's also where the official narrative gets mugged by reality. Back on his show, the shock on Rogan's face starts to turn, slow and deliberate, into something angrier. He's not buying it. Horse's spit, he growls, the word hanging there like an accusation. The idea that a rookie could sneak a rifle into a secure zone, pick his spot, and then calmly take the weapon apart, slip it into a backpack, and get out unseen. Shut the F up, he barks, voice tight, not caring who he offends. This kid's not trained. This isn't a movie. You think he just, parkours up the side of a campus building at noon and nobody notices? Rogan's got a point, and it's not just for effect. There are a dozen questions nobody wants to answer. Why did campus security, supposedly beefed up after the Minnesota incident, have no one on the roofs? Why does the timeline make it look like Robinson would have had to teleport from one end of the quad to the other? And how come in the social media age, not a single clean video surfaces of Robinson actually doing the deed?
Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
That's the wedge that pries open the next layer. Enter Candace Owens. Never the accelerant you want on a conspiracy fire, but the one you're going to get. She's everywhere now. Top of the podcast charts, throwing gasoline on every contradiction the authorities hope you won't notice. Her episodes, Who Ordered the Hit on Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk suspect charged. Something isn't right, she insists. She doesn't just speculate that this isn't a lone shooter situation and that the FBI is leaning on Utah officials to pin it on Robinson just to get it over with. Owens even claims to have talked to an eyewitness, a student who says the shooter he saw on the roof was not in jeans and a t-shirt, but in full tactical gear, carrying a weapon that doesn't match the ballistics of Robinson's hunting rifle.
To drive you crazy and to just go, okay, I'm just gonna accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. We can't allow that to happen here. I won't allow that to happen here because this something terrible has traumatized the world, okay? And I feel as though when it comes to this, the media, the government, the talking heads, everyone is confusing us about what actually took place.
Here's where it gets spicier, and if you spend 5 minutes in the comment sections, you'll see the same video clip repeated 1,000 times. A lone figure in black ghosting along the rooftop right before the shot. The footage is grainy, classic Bigfoot territory, but Owen says the eyewitness who took it swears that's not Robinson. This witness, she claims, flagged campus cops, described the suspect's clothes and weapon, and then watched as the police basically shrugged and moved on. The clincher? Bullet fragments pulled from the stage are so mangled, forensic text can't match them to Robinson's rifle. Either Robinson's an illusionist with magic bullets, or someone else was up there, and the feds don't want to know. The rumors churn fast. Owen says the FBI has been breathing down Utah's neck to declare Robinson the shooter. The official line is that they need a conviction, any conviction, to keep things from spinning out of control. Owens is relentless, rattling off the anomalies like she's running a speed round. There's the student, who says he saw a second man fiddling with the venue's CCTV camera just minutes after the shot. There's the inexplicable construction at the crime scene less than a week after the incident, which Owens frames as a classic cover-up move. She calls the suspect's text messages so federally written as if an intern at the DOJ typed them up, tossed in some online slang, and hoped no one would notice how phony they sounded. Even some of the cynics on the left are forced to admit something here doesn't taste right.
Like the more they keep looking into it, the more they're like, this doesn't feel like a real, it feels super fabricated.
But here's the thing, just like I was talking about when people are arguing on social media, it's all part of the plan.
Meanwhile, the pressure cooker builds outside the studio. Charlie Kirk's funeral is a circus, the media eating itself alive with hot takes, politicians stumbling over each other to score points. The vice president hosts Kirk's podcast in tribute, Trump calls for vengeance, and the American comeback tour becomes a traveling shrine. All of this swirling just as Rogan and Owens dig deeper, tossing out the word patsy with every new development. Robinson's not confessing. He's not talking at all, in fact. Utah's governor admits Robinson is refusing to cooperate. Not a word to anyone, just stone-cold silence behind bulletproof glass. And then, back to that grainy image, a silhouette on the roof, swaddled in black, rifle low, face lost in shadow. Students swear that's the man who fired, and it sure as hell wasn't Robinson. The official story can't explain him, can't make him go away, and with every unanswered question, the legend grows. Is Robinson just a name on a file, a convenient scapegoat, while the real shooter walks free? Is there a network, a handler, a paymaster? Or is this just the latest American myth in the making, fanned by a dozen podcasts and a nation addicted to outrage? We stare at that rooftop photo, the shadowy figure who might not even exist, as the chatter quiets and the questions linger, louder than gunfire, louder than any official statement.
And I want to be very clear that I believe, in fact, I know that towards the end, Charlie was fighting for custody of himself. I want to say that. I want to say that plainly, and there are lies that are being told and they need to be slapped down right now.
So we dig deeper into the cracks, and the official story gets shakier by the hour. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox, face-pinched from weeks of press conferences, flat out admitted Robinson isn't cooperating, not a word. He sits in jail, blank as a stone, lawyers at his side, no confession, no motive. His family and friends describe a kid who once pulled a 40 GPA, sailed through school, sharp as a tack, and then somewhere in the digital back alleys got sucked into the deep, dark internet. That's the phrase they keep using, like it's a place you can point to on a map. The feds are already turning over Discord servers, scanning group chats, desperately hunting for a clue that ties Robinson's new digital life to what happened on that rooftop. But every lead seems to vanish as quickly as it appears, replaced by another rumor, another screenshot, another scrap of context, lost in a blizzard of memes and half-truths.
All I know how to do is to gather information, to research, and to investigate. And nothing is making sense. Now, it could not be making sense because we've not arrived at the conclusion. The FBI, I will say, has recently come out and said they're looking for another person. Good, because what we have so far obviously cannot be it, I feel.
Then come the details from the scene. Details that are almost too perfect, too cinematic if you're feeling cynical. Bullet casings recovered from the rooftop, prosecutors say, are scrawled with graffiti. Hey fascist, catch, and Oh Bella Ciao, the old anti-fascist anthem, blaring from every Netflix show in the last 5 years. There's even a casing that reads, if you read this, you are part of the rainbow community, LMAO. Is this a calling card from an angry activist or a bit of dark online humor left by someone who knew what would go viral? For some, it screams motive. For others, it reeks of evidence a little too on the nose. Are we supposed to believe a leftist assassin leaves breadcrumbs this obvious at the scene, knowing the whole world will be watching? Or is this someone crafting a myth, stage managing a narrative for cable news, Twitter, and every right-wing podcast host with a ring light? And then we arrive at the forensics, which, if you believe Candace Owens, is where the entire prosecution begins to unravel. Her sources insist the bullet fragments found in Kirk's neck and on the stage are so shredded, so unrecognizable, that forensics can't link them to Robinson's supposed weapon. That's not a technicality, it's the entire case. No gun, no match, no smoking gun moment for the prosecution to wave in front of a jury. Meanwhile, the video evidence that should be everywhere in 2025 is just as blurry, just as frustrating. The rooftop camera, which should have caught the shooter's every move, somehow misses the crucial second. The university's own feeds are a digital mess, scrambled, erased, lost to technical issues and statements that only fuel suspicion. And let's not forget the viral whispers. A man seen minutes after the shot, climbing a maintenance ladder and fiddling with the CCTV camera directly above Kirk's chair. Was it a campus tech doing his job, or someone making sure we never see the full truth? The authorities can't or won't say.
Yeah, you get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry, and you
boyfriend is a
talk to him
furry?
on Discord. I think he's a furry.
Is
I don't
that
want to disrespect.
I don't know if that's a
He's
real
definitely
thing. Is that?
His boyfriend's definitely a guy who became a girl.
And wears furry stuff.
I think they do furry. Or furry games. Excuse me.
Everywhere we look, evidence blurs and shreds. There's a pattern emerging, one that makes the Kirk case less of an investigation and more of a hall of mirrors. Documents disappear. Security footage goes missing. Construction crews show up at the crime scene less than a week after the incident, digging, tearing up pavement, cordoning off areas that had been wide open days earlier. Owens says it's classic cover-up, and for once, the official explanation, that it's just routine campus maintenance, sounds like the kind of line you use when you don't have a better one. Meanwhile, text messages the prosecution released between Robinson and his roommate sound, as one podcaster put it, so federally written, as if churned out by a bored bureaucrat assigned to simulate Gen Z banter. But are these authentic, or another piece of evidence that's been massaged for public consumption?
Maybe he thought he was going to shoot him. Maybe he's a patsy. Maybe he did it.
I feel like he's a plant. Did you see the video? Did you see the person doing the investigating on his mom's Facebook?
No.
You haven't seen this? Have you seen that, Jamie? Some dude online.
His mom's got a weird Facebook. I just spilled coffee.
Very trippy. It doesn't make any sense. Like, the more they keep looking into it, the more.
Robinson's own life story only makes things murkier. Cox, the governor, went on TV to confirm Robinson's partner is transitioning from male to female. And the talking heads immediately spun that into every possible angle. Hate crime, mental health, leftist radicalization. But officials keep walking it back, warning that the detail may be irrelevant, that maybe the real story is simpler or much, much messier. Robinson's parents, by all accounts, are dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republicans, Trump donors, churchgoers, exactly the kind of family who once would have seen Kirk as a hero. So how does a smart, ordinary young man from southern Utah become, in the span of months, the country's most wanted suspect? Was it a genuine transformation? Or the kind of backstory prosecutors crave because it's easy to sell to jurors and reporters alike?
So I could do it tomorrow.
If you're no, but you are experienced. If it's someone that's never shot, could they do it?
100%. Not
Really?
if they've never shot. They wouldn't know where to look. They'd have a hard time acquiring the like when you look through a scope, like when the reticle is weird. Like sometimes
Takes a
hard.
minute.
You got to know the distance that you have to be from it to really line it up in your sights. But you could get a guy like my friend Andy Stump, who was a sniper in the SEALs. You could get him, and he could show you how to do it in an afternoon.
Rogan, ever the cynic, tells his listeners this story feels engineered, almost manufactured in a lab somewhere. The patsy theory rears its head again and again, gaining steam not because it's proven, but because it fills the void left by all the missing facts. Every week, new podcasts appear, dissecting the evidence, mapping out timelines, comparing the case to the GFK and Bobby Kennedy cases, the scaffolding of American conspiracy lore. They tally up everything that doesn't fit, the time it would have taken Robinson to climb a public building in broad daylight, the total lack of credible witness descriptions, the fast-forward rush to close the case before the first wave of political funerals. What's left is a psychological labyrinth, not just for Robinson, but for everyone involved. The prosecution leans on digital footprints, blurred motives, deep, dark internet tropes. The defense asks who benefits from Kirk's removal, why evidence keeps vanishing, and what agenda is served by feeding the public an official story. With so many gaps you could drive a convoy through it, the press runs with whatever leaks, social media amplifies the noise, and inside the echo chamber, it's almost impossible to tell which threads are real and which have been planted to confuse and distract.
He set it up in a way that, like, okay, you're saying something that's actually factually inaccurate according to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know.
Some details haunt us. The rooftop photo, a silhouette never quite resolved, becomes the Zapruder film of this decade. Endlessly analyzed, debated, enhanced. The eyewitness, still refusing to recant, tells Owens the shooter was not Robinson, not even close. Yet prosecutors stick to their script, even as forensic experts hedge, and even as the story shifts week to week. Meanwhile, the FBI's involvement is shrouded in secrecy. We know they pressured Utah authorities to move quickly, to get a name, to wrap up the story before national outrage boiled over. But as every true crime fan knows, speed is the enemy of truth.
Pretty accurate.
Nope.
No?
Not hard. Not hard at all.
hard.
Let me dispel that.
Okay.
Okay. 200 yards from a prone position with a dead-on rifle. So if you have a dead-on rifle, so you set this rifle, you set your 0 to 200 yards, right? You know how far you're going to shoot. It is not hard at all.
He shot a lot?
You don't have to shoot a lot.
So here we are, left with fragments, rumors, and a growing sense that the story is still very much alive. Robinson, whatever his guilt or innocence, sits silent, refusing to play the role assigned to him. Kirk's movement, far from fading, explodes in size, every rally now a potential flashpoint. Lawmakers pump tens of millions of dollars into new security, and everyone with a podcast license or a Twitter handle is chasing the next viral theory. Rogan, grim as ever, leaves us with a line that chills the room. Maybe he's a patsy. Maybe, in other words, the real shooter, the one who executed Kirk from the rooftop, then vanished into thin air, is still out there, watching, waiting, ready to pull the trigger again. And that's where we're forced to leave it. A nation spinning, a case cracked wide open, and the most influential conservative voice of a generation brought down by a phantom who may never be caught. Could the real mastermind still be among us, hiding in plain sight, or are we all just players in someone else's script, looking for meaning in the blur? Tell us what you think in the comments. Are you buying the official story, or do you smell a cover-up? Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and until next time, remember, sometimes the real danger is what you don't see. Catch you in the shadows.